All right, there we go. Sorry, I was checking out some stuff that I had to take a look at. Anyways, good morning, everyone. It is Friday, Fantabulous Friday, coming off of a crazy, really a couple of weeks in the last 3 days. Good morning, everyone. This is Carol Sue, aka Naughty Boss, live with two
Sistas. Hey, good morning, everyone. It's Janis, aka Wellness Diva, excuse me, 5.0, and excuse me. And yes, it has been a crazy week. And of course, as many of you know, we have family, of course, in Florida, of course, Carol Sue being in Vero Beach. So it's been a crazy week for everyone in Florida, and we want to send our prayers and concerns and love for all those who really have lost so much. I, of course, personally know, having lived in Florida, what the intensity and the stress of going through those feelings of, oh my God, it's, a hurricane type of thing. It really wreaks havoc on your nerves. So hugs to everyone involved, and I know that they are getting the emergency crews coming in now, and even providing the basic necessities. And I know what it's like, and I feel your pain, and we are there with you.
And I have to say, first off, you have to always think of the blessings, even in these kinds of tragic things that go on, that Mother Nature, you can't control it. First off, kudos to our governor. He was right on the ball. Really, the emergency setup was already set up 2 days prior. Like, they had over 30,000 people coming in from different states already ready before the storm actually started, which was really, I've never seen that kind of aggressiveness of the pre-prep, knowing it was coming. You couldn't ignore the warnings. And he just had everything in place. So even at 1 a.m. after Ian had landed, they waited for winds to come down to, I believe it was under 40 miles an hour, where then they would start actually doing getting people, saving people, doing those emergency, where are these people? Are they on the roof? So he just was lined up. He was so prepared, along with Florida Light and Power. Everyone was just on point. And I think it's funny because, I've been through a hurricane up north before. I've never, been involved or, with tornado. I mean, tornado warnings, I've had a few of those over my lifetime, but nothing to the degree of, the constant alert. So that was nerve-wracking. But the other weird thing was really trying to, because, we've been talking about mainstream media for quite a few years now, of, what they tell you versus what you actually learn or know, either by experience or by taking the bulls by the horn and doing your own research. So my feeling about mainstream media has not changed, even with weather, has not changed. So I went ahead and started really preparing myself by finding people that were really in the know and expertise. And kudos to Mike, the weatherman. He actually does live in Florida, but he had predicted the track, because he doesn't just use 1 or 2 tracks, or models, I should say. He dissects several, multiple models. I have to say, even though we're Italian, the word spaghetti has a whole new meaning. The spaghetti this, the spaghetti that, the spaghetti track. Really got me in mood to eat meatballs until I actually really was reading what the spaghetti thing was all about, and different colors of the spaghetti and what they meant. But, kudos to him, because he actually had it not going to Tampa. He kept saying that it was going to be almost very atypical of Charlie, but you always have to factor in that the wobble, as they call it, going from one side to another. And I think part of the problem was the focus was in one area and not really the other area, but he's got a huge following. So the locals really took warning from what he was saying to prepare in Naples, in Punta Gorda, I think it's Port Charlotte, all the different areas in that, Fort Myers in that area. So they were, while there were some that, hunkered down and decided they weren't going to leave, the governor was very adamant. Really, what impressed me was he didn't wait like 4 hours, 6 hours. Like he was like, we were getting updates constantly. So for those that don't know, that probably do remember Charlie, which now Charlie will outlive its notoriety and Ian will take that place. While it took the path of Charlie, or very similar, actually landed, I mean, how ironic, landed in this one little area. There were definitely differences where Charlie was 3 times smaller than Ian. Ian was over 500 miles, or I don't know if it still is, over 500 miles wide. The other key piece was Charlie was fast moving, Ian was not. So what did that mean, being that it was slower pace, meant obviously a lot more torrential rains, which created the flooding, which a lot of people will say they're more focused on the wind and not the water. And an interesting line I heard was, you can hide from wind, but you got to run from water. And it's a whole different narrative when you're talking about either or. The other key piece to a slower storm like that, depending on where you were. So in this case, because it's 500, so you got to think about it, how, Florida's a narrow state. So you've got this vast storm. So when Ian was still out in Cuba, the east coast of Florida was feeling those very wide bands, because Cuba, to say southern Florida, is not that far. So we, the Ian, the storm, had not even made landfall, was not even close to the United States from a, walking distance, let's just say. So the East Coast was feeling those heavy, heavy winds and heavy bands before it even got to the United States, right? So we were dealing with that for probably the first 12 to 15 hours, maybe longer. And it was just, a heavy, drenching, torrential rain that was nonstop, which in the beginning, you're like, okay, this is good for the ponds, because we were a little, I wouldn't say we were in a drought, but we were a little on the dry side. And then all of a sudden, like vast water, keeping track of, obviously in our pool, we have a automatic drainer. Some pools do, some pools don't. So what John did, which was smart, was drain the pool a little bit to compensate for the vast amount of water that was going to come down, just in case the pumping out couldn't keep up. So we took precautions that way, that we had learned. And of course, we did what everyone recommends to do. You take in all your things, anything loose. In addition to that, we were taking our neighborhood community efforts with the gate and all these different things like that. It's a gated community. So you're working on twofold with all of those things, then, just helping out other neighbors or anyone else in need. So you feel that for, like I said, a good 15 hours. Then once the storm hit, the vast, devastation started for the West Coast, because they were dealing with 100 and, I think the first winds were 150 miles an hour. The pressure started lower. When everyone hears the pressure lower, they think it's weakening, which actually that's the opposite. That's actually when it's starting to fuel. So much so that it actually went into different bay areas and gobbled up their water. And it's something to do with the way that the wind is flowing around. It actually, and if the temperature is right, which it was, you had warm waters, it was the wind and the storm was actually sucking up bodies of water, which I've never seen. What a phenomenal that was. So as we were waiting, the East Coast was waiting for the storm to hit. They had already been dealing with bad weather for a good 15 plus hours. So now the storm starts moving in. So now you get that. And then of course, the tracking, I'm sure everyone's glued to their TV because of, mainstream media had it going in one direction and, certain local channels and or like I said, Mike, the weatherman, he had it on point. So, then it's like download this app, download that app, the alerts, the constant alerts going off, tornado warning, tornado warning. So you have the intermittent sleep. We are blessed because we do have impact windows. We are blessed. We have an impact hurricane type roof. And that could sustain, 140-mile-an-hour winds. So we felt secure, but when you're still getting those, then 2 a.m. I'm Googling, okay, so if you got a cement block house, how safe is it in a tornado? So you're now, you're dealing with the hurricane, that's coming, torrential rains, the winds, the flooding, and now tornado alerts are popping up left and right in our area. And then a lot of microbursts. So you're dealing with all that. So obviously the first night, no sleep. Second night, while the storm was here, no sleep. Then what category would it be? It got down to a Cat 1, then eventually a tropical storm, which let me tell you something. I think a tropical storm can go up to 73-mile-an-hour winds. So yeah, there's a difference between that and 100 for sure. But don't mistake that as being so like all people up like South Carolina now, like, oh, it's just gonna be a tropical storm or it might be a Cat 1. That is nothing to sniff about, people. The power is still there. And then the crunching noises, besides the alert that you could hear, limbs crunching and, things hitting the window and just things flying. It's just nerve-wracking. So night 2 didn't sleep. And then yesterday we thought, okay, Ian's out of its way. We're in the clear. No, we weren't, because round 3 came around where we were on the backside of the storm because we felt it when it was in Cuba. We felt it coming over towards us, and now we're feeling it leave us. So we encountered, 3 parts of the storm, which is unusual depending on where you are in the storm. And so, yesterday we wanted to do a little cleanup. Very minimal you could do because we were still having 60 miles, 70 mile an hour. Even I think there was a 190-mile-an-hour gust. So and it was consistently, windy, 34 mile-an-hour winds. So you're going to clean up one area, and then you're going to get debris from another area. So it made no sense. So, then you start saying, well, now it's Fantabulous Friday. We always celebrate our blessings, always wake up every day with a grateful heart. I was a little nerve-wracked because there was people that I care about that are in the Naples area and the Fort Myers area that I had not heard from. Finally heard from them later on during the day. So glad to hear that Julie and Dave Petrozello are safe and sound. And they have properties in Boca along with Naples, and both remain dry. So that's a good thing. But the devastation of, you see, what the flooding can do. Really combination of when high tide and when these surges were coming, and you're talking about 20-foot surges, and seeing someone swim in their dining room trying to swim up the stairs, seeing people stranded on top of their homes, was just and that piece to it. And then really geographically, beaches have totally changed. Like even in Vero Beach, like half the beach is gone. Fort Myers, Naples, any on the shoreline, geographically it's different. So now when you talk about, regrouping and rebuilding, restructuring, it looks a lot differently now. And knowing that, there might be and have been some people that lost their lives. So where do you get the blessings out of all of this? If you realize that materialistic things, while they hold value, your pictures, you have those priceless items, really it's a lesson in taking charge of making sure I've got an accurate plan, heed the warning of evacuation. I don't think they say it because they want to have a high school party at the high school cafeteria or a shelter. They do it because they want to make sure that, first of all, life is precious, especially as time ticks on. Life is precious. So heed those warnings of evacuation. Make sure that you have a plan of your paperwork, your special pictures, whatever, Ziploc bags, put them in a spot that and we were blessed. We were blessed that the governor was on point with prep, along with some local people like Mike, the weatherman, that really guided the newcomer who has not been. You might have been like me, been in a hurricane before, but nothing to this magnitude. So a lot of people, the question was nor'easter or a hurricane. I would definitely go with a nor'easter. I'm not going to lie. For not for the cold, not for that piece to it, but a nor'easter is dangerous in itself. We know that. Anyone out of power sucks. Let's be real. We depend on power. But it's just a different feeling. I think you're not getting those weather alerts the same way. Yes, they both have their dangers, but when you see something, that type of hurricane, and who knows? We pray to God we never see one that large again. But the vast amount, that it covered an entire state that way. Where a nor'easter, same difference, can come up the coast. You have a lot of devastation. So I don't want to undermine a nor'easter. It has its due credit of danger as well. But I would have to say, I don't know, I would take a nor'easter, I think. But, we are blessed. We're grateful. We're thankful. The cleanup has started. Johnny's already out there sawing and, trying to cut down a couple trees. We've got trees that are down. We have one that's bent. We have one that we're hopefully going to save, that we have to tie up. A lot of debris in the what they call a lake, which is really, in my book, a pond next to us. And kind of assessing what's going on in the neighborhood. But things, we're blessed. We took the precautions, and we're blessed and grateful that you get through that, and you get through that with teamwork, with people coming together, and that's when you see really the best in humanity. People coming together to help each other out in need. And so that should be celebrated, humanity, being good neighbors.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, having lived in Florida, unfortunately have, experienced, bad weather like that. And it's very nerve wracking. And, I recall that summer where it was hurricane after hurricane. I think it was Charlie. And then, a couple hurricanes after that, I believe it was Hurricane Francis that came in and hit the East Coast, and then it wobbled out, but then it circled back and hit us again. And we're like, what the flippity flip? And of course, tornadoes, which are very, very dangerous. The waters are very dangerous. And, I'll never forget the tornado. I mean, it's still on YouTube. Go on YouTube in 2007 DeLand tornado, and receiving that call from our sister Claudine at 4:00 in the morning. It's coming. And then the line went dead. And I was like half asleep, and it's very nerve wracking. And then to finally be able to get down there and not be allowed down in that area. And there's just so many emotions involved with it. And, seeing a lot of the devastation on the news, and really just that, some people that were coming back to, see what was left of their stuff. And that in and of itself, you get through the hurricane, and now you have to witness the devastation of your property, of, things that meant so much to you. And when you're dealing with the insurance company, there's just so many different layers.
There is.
And all I can, maybe suggest for anyone who's looking for to take a lot of pictures before you start throwing things away. Take pictures of everything, because, when the insurance comes through, like this is on, your floor, and let's just say it's an antique or something, you have to write that down. Like, you have to be very detailed with it. So before you throw anything away, of course, take pictures, even if you think
whatever you have. And they also even recommend that you take pictures before an event. document,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
document your belongings and anything that describes your belongings, put them in a separate file. And now, obviously, you're not going to keep all those belongings constantly in a Ziploc bag. We know that, but maybe have a special place, a special drawer. Now, obviously, we did get a lot of prep time, but sometimes you get something there is no prep time. So, paying attention to your surroundings, your weather is always good. There's plenty of apps that you can have on your phone, but instead of now trying to go search for all those documents, like your insurance policy, whatever, what I suggest to do, and which actually I'm going to do next week, that is my big project, is to duplicate because I don't want to have to go fishing for them. So I'm going to duplicate all my important paperwork and specifically put them in a separate area that I can, if I had to grab and go, I could. That way they're still in my normal file, but I have a copy of them. Same thing like your passports, like any important documents you have, make sure you keep a copy of them. And, maybe you decide, do I want to keep the copy in my regular file and have the originals in the Ziploc? Do it that way, or vice versa. Just as long as you have a copy of it, that's the main thing. And keeping it in such a spot, your financial information, your insurance information. Pictures is another whole different gamut because obviously people like to, have their albums out. They, have pictures up. We're in a digital world now, so we do have a lot of things on digital file. But, if you've got those old, family photos or whatever, get them on digital file as well. That way and you always have them, and though they might not be the original, but at least you would still have a copy of them. So there's great ways of making sure that you can have functional files as well as emergency files. And that way you're not, kind of scrambling at the last second. So that's one of my projects that I'm going to be putting on my to-do list, as well as, you rethink things. You rethink things of less is more, which only really reevaluates what we've been doing is kind of combing through belongings. And geez, if we don't have a need for it, maybe someone else does and somebody else can repurpose it. But downsizing and items, is a good thing. When you start to get into that cleanup mode, you realize, gee, do I really need that? Do I really need that? Then you have other people that don't even have that luxury to make that choice because they've got nothing left. Their car is floating down the street. Their photo albums are probably miles away now. So there's a whole different emotions. So I'd say, so what do you celebrate? You just celebrate that you're breathing, that maybe you helped out someone in need, that you got through the storm with little to no damage. Maybe you got through the storm with damage, but you still have a house to go home to. You still have your vehicle. Maybe, you weren't lucky in the sense of items, but you were maybe able to save a pet. You were able to help a neighbor. There's all different ways of different blessings that we encounter when we go through these life-changing moments for people. But I think at the end of the day, what we saw, despite which is a whole different gamut subject of what's going on in our country, you really saw the best in humanity, and the state of Florida is forever grateful for having such great leadership from Governor DeSantis on down, really keeping things on point.
Yeah, exactly. And to add to the digital part of it, especially with like insurance policies and whatnot, it's always a good idea too. And I love the idea, of having a copy elsewhere and having it in a sealed bag. But I would also suggest too, scanning it in, so you also have a digital copy of it.
Yes, great idea.
And think of your hurricane kit. What are some things that you didn't have that you maybe looked in your kit and was like, oh darn, I should have gotten that, or that type of thing. So as you go forward and kind of replenish your kit, think about those different items that maybe you were low on batteries, or maybe you need to get a another portable cell phone charger, whatever it may be.
Right.
Start revamping that. And of course, when water is on sale, maybe pick up an extra case of that. It's a continued learning process.
Speaking of water, I just learned something, which I don't know why I didn't know this, but I love being always open to things. So obviously most of our lives, other than when we lived in the city, when we were younger, we always had well water. So I always automatically, and as our parents had taught us, we would fill up a tub because obviously with electricity, you can't get the pump to work for the well. So you need the water to brush your teeth, flush the toilet, whatever it may be. So while we were gathering our supplies, and we had a couple over, they slept over because they live in a mobile community, and our girlfriend's boyfriend was flying in from Oregon. He actually made it in right before MCO closed, which was a miracle. They ended up spending the second night with us, or actually the first night. Was the second night first? I don't even know. They slept over, not last night, the night before. Anywho, so we're sitting around and we're watching a movie and just, obviously getting alerts. And she said, "Did you fill the tub up with water?" And I said, "Well, no, I don't. We've got plenty of water. I don't need to fill up the tub with water." And she says, "Well, how are you going to flush the toilet?" I go, "We don't have to flush. We don't need that. We don't have a well. We have a well for our irrigation system, but we're on city water." And then they both start cracking up. "You still need water for the toilet." I'm like, "Why would you?" But they said, "You did." I said, "I didn't know that. I was assuming because you're on city and the city has backup whatever, that you wouldn't need water to flush the toilet, but I guess you do." And we didn't have to test it out because we only lost power. So here's a funny thing, because there's always something funny with a storm. Even in the devastation, you have to find humor, because humor does help heal the soul. We're watching a movie. It was probably, oh gosh, midnight, maybe close to midnight. And, because we kept getting alerts and we kept pausing the movie, this one would get up to go to the bathroom. This one wanted to go make us, plate of snacks, whatever it may be. So Johnny goes, "Okay, we only got like 15, 20 minutes left. Let's hurry up and get this movie in before the power goes out." And literally he said, before the power goes out, zzz, the power goes out. Total darkness. And we were prepared. We had our flashlights and we immediately started yelling at John, "John, it's your fault." Then all of a sudden the power came up and enough for him to say, "It wasn't my fault." Blah, 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 and then zzz, power went out again. So that went for about 3 or 4 minutes, and then finally the power stayed on. So again, we were very, very blessed. But it's, again, what you're putting out in the universe. And on top of that, the other funny thing, not funny, but the tree, the one tree that I took pictures of, we've had several that are bent or fallen over, but this one particular one that really came right out of the ground. I said, "John, what have you been saying for the last, 2 months, 3 months?" "What do you mean?" I go, "About that tree." He goes, "Yeah, it's getting too close to the house. I got to cut it back. Why did they plant it? It's too close to the house." I go, "And that's the one that fell. You put it out in the universe." Not the way you intended to, but so, that universe does not know the difference of, sometimes it's just going by what the feelings that you're putting out, because we know that our thoughts have electrical currents. So I said to John, "You put that out there." He's like, "Oh, well."
Oh, boy. Well, obviously, we hope that the cleanup, goes well for everyone, and be safe, heed the warnings of your local and state officials and all that kind of stuff. And Fantabulous Friday. What's fantabulous in your world? I am all bundled up. We're getting in that time of year where it's that crispy, cold morning. I already got my power walk in, and getting ready momentarily to do my second workout. And yeah, that's fantabulous.
Yeah, and like I said, we're going to finish our cleanup, and we've got a couple of things to do. We may try to get some pickleball in. I know the pickleball courts, they needed a little help, but they had a crew going over, I guess, at 7 a.m. this morning. So it's probably maybe try to get some games in. Then we got some bowling night tonight. Things today are opening up. Everything was closed down for a couple of days, so I'm sure everyone's like antsy to get out A couple things were opened up last night, the Moose Club and Elks Club, things like that, but we're back in full swing. We are continually sending prayers to everyone on the West Coast for safe recovery. Our thoughts and prayers are with you. I know there's going to be some financial aids coming out to help them, which is great. And we're also praying for everyone in South Carolina that is going to be getting hit today with Cat 1 and tropical storms. Again, heed the warnings. They, especially where they're talking about where it's going to land, is a low-lying area, which means a lot of flooding. And gosh, flooding can do so much damage and harm and really devastate a community as well as life. So our prayers and thoughts are with them. And whatever your plans are for this weekend, go in it with the intention of gratitude. Go with the intention of kindness and good humanity, and showing really what we're made of as a human race, that we can come together in hardships and devastation times. And there's nothing better than being the one to give that. But it's also such a blessing and feels good for the people that are receiving it. It really does get that as I call the train of kindness going forward. So we wish you a great weekend. We will see you Monday for Monday Mindset. Don't forget, Sunday is the first day of the week. Today is the last day of the month. It is a Friday. So make your October. I hear there's a lot of, everyone's got excitement going on with this Hocus Pocus and witches coming out. I don't know. I guess there's new shows coming on.
Yeah, I heard something briefly about that. And just a reminder for
like witches post, which.
Yeah, I'm like, what is that all about? I don't know. But in any event, of course, today is National Podcast Day. So kudos to all those amazing podcasters out there. And on that note, my name is Janis, aka Wellness Diva 5.0, keeping it real with two
Sistas, and this is Carol Sue, aka Naughty Boss, about to get my cleanup crew going and help the hubs out there. You have a great weekend, and we'll see you Monday for Monday Mindset. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.